Today, I'm going to be talking about a common misconception that we see often, and that is digital nomad visas versus residency. Now, digital nomad visas have become a very popular option to live and reside longer term in a country, especially over the last few years. However, they are not necessarily always the long term solution that most people think. And if you want stability, taxes that you can plan for, and a real base, likely what you're looking for is residency or an option leading to residency, not simply a revolving door visa. So, in this video, I'm going to explain what this means a little bit more and clarify the difference between a digital nomad visa and residency, which is something we see often with our client, so that you can make an informed decision on where you are going next and how you plan to apply to legally reside in that jurisdiction. Now, before diving in, I first want to clarify a few different terms. So, first of all, we have a tourist visa or a tourist stay, which is often anywhere from 30 to 90 days. And this simply means that the passport that you hold or the passports that you hold allow you visa free travel access. So, most of the time, you will not need to apply for a visa, or you apply for a simple visa online instead of going to a consulate and getting a tourist visa that way, with the ability to stay short term in a country. So, this is okay for living for short periods of time or for simply going on holiday. The next term to clarify is the digital nomad visa, which, depending on the country, are usually valid for anywhere from 1 to 2 years. And you do have permission to work remotely for a foreign employer, often with restrictions and limits as well, while you are living and working on a digital nomad visa. The last term and distinction here is residency, which is the legal status to live long term. Often it is renewable and it can lead to permanent residence if you start with temporary residence or to citizenship down the line. Now, residency and citizenship is really what we work our clients with. We don't work with digital nomad visas, but we're going to clarify why that is and why you may want residency over a digital nomad visa. So, again, we're talking overall here. Every country and jurisdiction does have different rules. So, this is not going to be the case for every single country that offers a digital nomad visa. But if we're looking at a general overview and a holistic picture of a majority of the countries that do have a digital nomad visa option, some of the problems that we often see with these nomad visa options are that they expire. So many digital nomad visas have a time constraint on them. Again, it's typically 1 or 2 years. It may be 1 year and it's renewable for an additional 1 or 2 years, but there is a time restriction on the visa. Once the time runs out, you either need to apply for an extension, or if there is no extension or you've already applied for multiple extensions previously, you are going to have to apply for residency if you can qualify, or you are going to have to leave the country. So, this is the first problem we see, but not only this, a lot of the time, and again, it does depend on the jurisdiction, but many times there is no pathway to PR, even TR, or citizenship down the line when you have a digital nomad visa. So, these visas are designed for temporary presence, not for settlement. And a lot of the time, the governments design these visas, of course, to bring foreign capital in terms of you as an individual living and contributing to their local economy. But it's not something where you long term have the legal rights to live or work your way toward PR, TR, or citizenship. Another constraint that almost every jurisdiction does have, and for good reason, on digital nomad visas is that you can only work for foreign employers or foreign companies. You cannot work for locals. You cannot run a local company because, of course, you are not bringing foreign capital into the country that way. So, this is a very standard rule that applies for most nomad visas. However, if you are a digital nomad, you likely work online, and this is not usually a problem for you. Next up is some practical areas of life that can be more difficult on a nomad visa, which is banking, IDs, and just general life admin can be more difficult depending on how you're classified when you hold a digital nomad visa. You may be treated as a non resident for immigration and for tax purposes, which can limit your integration into local life, especially for opening bank accounts, is where we really see this as a core issue. So, an example of this is the digital nomad visa in Costa Rica qualifies you as a non-resident, which is fine if you're not planning to live indefinitely in Costa Rica and you're only planning to be there for a few years or so. However, you will have more difficulty as a non-resident opening a bank account, potentially opening investment account. There are certain things where you may want to integrate into the local life, the local economy, that may be more difficult just depending on how you're classified on that nomad visa. And then, of course, one common one, if you are a family and you are looking to relocate not only yourself, but your family as well, schooling, leases, and multi year planning can become more difficult if you're simply on a nomad visa, especially a nomad visa that does not convert into a residency in the long. So, what is a better plan than simply obtaining a nomad visa? Now, it does vary depending on the country that you are looking into, but typically we recommend to our clients to have a residency first mindset. So, there are some benefits of this. The first, of course, being continuity, where you can have a multi year permit of either temporary residence, permanent residence, which you can renew. And likely there's also going to be a clock. You have TR toward PR, which is permanent resident or towards citizenship, especially if it's a country that you want to live in longer term. You really want to be thinking with a long term mindset of 5, even potentially 10 years out. What is the goal that you're working toward? Are you working towards citizenship because you hold residency, or are you only on a renewable nomad visa where you're spending time in a country, but you're not working your way towards something in the long term? Another benefit of residency over simply having a nomad visa is, of course, the life infrastructure. So you have easier banking. It's going to be much easier to get utilities, internet, electricity, water in your name. You may also in time be eligible for credit. Usually this isn't something that you're initially eligible, but as you work your way toward banking options, you may become eligible for credit or lines of credit in the future in this country. Also having local IDs, having a local driver's license, and it may also make company formation in this jurisdiction easier as well. And of course, what we talk about all the time on this channel is the optionality. So you now have residency and you have a plan B that is permanent. And yes, there are jurisdictions that have requirements for keeping your residency active, whether you need to be there every year, every 2 years, every 3 years. But most of the time, this can be a smaller stay. It doesn't have to be 6 months plus per year in order to keep that residency active and so that you can hold that indefinitely for 5, 10, 15, 20 plus years instead of simply having a nomad visa that may expire. Now, there are some countries where a nomad visa does work to work your way toward obtaining residency. So, Portugal, under their D8 program, for example, where you are a remote worker, this is an option where you can apply under the Nomad D8 visa, and then you can convert that to residency down the line. Typically, you will convert it to a 2 year residence permit, which is renewable, and then you'll be able to get either PR or citizenship after 5 years of legal residence in the country. And yes, of course, there is a stay requirement. This may be changing at some point in the future. There are talks of changes, but as of now, this is still the law. And then, of course, keep in mind this is a naturalization route if you're looking to work your way towards citizenship by naturalization in a country like Portugal. And typically, for any naturalization application, they want to see time on the ground and they also want to see that you speak the language and understand the local culture. So, Greece is another option where you can start with a nomad visa and then you can transition that over to a residence permit. So, you'll start with a 12-month nomad visa, which can, again, similar to Portugal, be converted into a 2 year residence permit, which is renewable. So there are options where you can start on a nomad visa and then work your way toward residency based on that nomad visa. But keep in mind that not all jurisdictions operate this way. And so you really want to do the research or book a call with us if you are interested in working your way toward longer term options, not only a short term option like a nomad visa, where you're unsure what that may convert to in a few years. So, of course, some countries where you will be able to get a nomad visa and it won't convert over into a residence permit in the long term. So, one of these countries is Costa Rica. You can get a nomad visa for 1 year and then you can apply to renew it again for the second year after that. But again, you are considered a non resident under the nomad visa and it's not going to be a pathway to residency. You do need to qualify separately for residency, which we have a video on the three different pathways of how you can qualify for residency. If you head to the channel and click in the search bar, we'll also include that video below. So Malaysia is another option where you can obtain residency and have either 3 or 12 months, and this can be renewable for an additional 12 months. But this is designed as more of a nomad visa, and it's not a fast track to residency. Of course, they also have the My Second Home program, where you're essentially buying the rights to live in Malaysia long term, but you are not working your way toward a permanent residence with this option. So, what is the best option for you at the end of the day? Now, with a strong passport, you often can be a tourist and live a short term digital nomad lifestyle from anywhere from 30 to 90 to even sometimes 180 days in any one jurisdiction by having simple visa free travel access due to your passport. But if you are looking to live longer term somewhere and to potentially start the clock on an option toward either temporary permanent residence or in the long term working your way towards citizenship, residency is going to be the best option. Now, one great example that we see with many of our clients is Uruguay. In Uruguay, we have worked with individuals who are first looking to obtain their digital nomad visa in Uruguay, but we will typically recommend them to go through the residency process instead. It is very straightforward. The stay requirements are minimal if you are looking to obtain your residency, and you are not going to be required to be in the country for 6 months plus per year to continuously show income to see that you qualify year after year. Once you hold residency, you have the legal right to live indefinitely in Uruguay if you so choose, with again minimal requirements to continue to keep that residency active year after year. Now, Uruguay does have a digital nomad visa, and this can be beneficial for the right individual, but we always recommend going with a longer term option while it is still available. We've seen, especially in the last year and a half, many of these programs either close or change, and the changes are almost always becoming more difficult to either qualify, more documentation, or a higher level of income in order to be able to obtain these visa options for residency. So if the option is available and something that you qualify now, we highly recommend going that route and having a diversification and a back pocket plan B option now instead of having a short-term nomad visa. If you're interested in learning more about what options could be best for you, your business, and your lifestyle, you can book a call with us below or feel free to search the channel for more detailed information on various different diversification options that are interesting for many of our clients now.